Hey, Cryptizens. Tonight's story. Did the DDoS attack push the Ukraine to legalize Bitcoin? The date is February 17th, 2022, and welcome back to the Crypto Overnighter. I'm your host, Nick. The cover model for this podcast is Tex, and together we take a nightly look at the crypto, NFT, and metaverse space and the industry that surrounds it. We bring you news stories on familiar topics. Now, keep in mind, nothing in this show should ever be considered financial advice. Now, if you're new here and you find that you're liking this show, subscribe and rate us. If you're on Spotify, you can rate right from the app. So give Tex and I 5 stars. It'll help other people find their way to this podcast. Now, there's a lot to talk about, so let's go. Ukraine was next. Who had Ukraine? I didn't expect Ukraine, and I didn't expect them to go as far as they did. And frankly, when I started writing tonight, I didn't expect to dig into it as much as I did. But there's so much good, interesting stuff in there, I knew it just demanded the whole show. But before we jump into that, let's take a quick look at the markets. The global crypto market cap is $1.86 trillion. That's down a painful 6.6% on the day. Ouch. At the time of writing, the top 5 cryptos by market cap are Bitcoin down 7.38%, Ethereum down 7.27%, Tether, Binance Coin down 5.57%, and USDC. The top 5 NFT collections by 24-hour volume on OpenSea are Azuki down 35%, MFers up 20%, Eden Horde down 38%, Mutant Apes up 21%, and Clatbox Genesis Collection still in its first 24 hours of trade, just edging out Bored Apes for number 5 slot, by the way. Keep in mind, some of these collections have very volatile prices, so do your own research. Did the DDoS attack push the Ukraine to legalize Bitcoin? On Thursday, the Ukrainian parliament legalized cryptocurrencies. The final score was 300 to 2. Pretty overwhelming. On that sense, at least, they will now be on an equal footing with Russia. I'll get to that in a bit, but really, Ukraine is not terribly surprising, right? It's like the Ukraine's Vice Minister Mikhail Fedorov said on Twitter. He said, quote, Ukraine is already in the top 5 countries on cryptocurrency usage. Today, we made one more step forward. Parliament adopted law on virtual assets. This will legalize crypto exchanges, cryptocurrencies, and Ukrainians could protect their assets from possible fraud or abuse. So on Thursday, they voted in a virtual assets bill. And this bill grants legal status to all cryptocurrencies and virtual assets. It sets out a framework for regulating Ukraine's virtual assets. Now, in that legislation, they refer to cryptocurrencies as virtual assets. And that's all crypto. That's not just the blue chips like Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so in their system, they're defining a virtual asset as any asset that cannot already be legally used as payment instrument or traded for other assets, products, or services. And to that end, they're laying the legal groundwork for incorporating all crypto assets into Ukraine's financial systems. They're also confirming the right of a citizen to hold and use cryptocurrencies and defines the rights and duties of all cryptocurrency market participants. And this is not the first time around for this particular piece of legal code. This one was almost exactly the same as the one that was voted in by Parliament last year, but had been vetoed by President Zelensky. And it has since been changed to make sure that they have the right legal mechanisms to affect implementation, make sure it doesn't violate their constitution. And if you talk to Mikhail Fedorov, he'll tell you that the new bill will allow Ukraine to start a legal market for virtual assets. It's uncertain, though, that the bill does stipulate the Ukraine's National Securities Commission will act as the main regulator for virtual assets in any future virtual asset market. So I kind of expected this to be happening and kind of soon. but it's interesting to actually see it happen. Exciting but not surprising. The Ukrainian volunteer and hacking groups have been getting crypto donations for some time now, and this has allowed them to supply equipment for the government. Reportedly, they've received more than $550,000 last year, so it totally makes sense to hop on that particular train. And again, that's likely because, as a report by Elliptic suggests, digital currencies are growing in importance as a funding method for volunteer groups backing the Ukraine's government. These donations coming in now as fears of an attack by Russian troops masked by its border grow. Now, Moscow denies planning an attack. Washington, D.C. and NATO differ. So you've got that. It just makes sense to wonder if it's easier to put those funds to work in the economy that way, if it just makes more sense. So here's some of the rules. Crypto can be sent and received anonymously. This takes the banks entirely out of the scenario. That means it doesn't matter if it's a charity or some other organization that the bank may or may not like. In the end, there's nothing that the bank can do to interfere with it. And also, financial institutions that put strict checks or steep fees on transferring funds, at least not on cryptocurrency funds, they won't be able to. Elliptic said, quote, "Cryptocurrency has proved to be a robust and growing alternative to traditional currency, especially when it comes to donations from other countries." They also said in their report that while last year $550,000 was donated, the year before it was only $6,000. And that is substantial in terms of adoption. Can you imagine if that scale holds through this year? That puts it on the order of billions of dollars of donations coming in. And that all needs to be harnessed, but you have to have the right environment if you can rig it. Elliptic tracks crypto on the blockchain for government agencies and private firms. They said one group, Come Back Alive, which is based in Kiev, began raising money in 2018. Last year, the last half of last year, they received almost $200,000. Now, in 2020, Ukraine clamped down on money laundering. Remember what I said about having to have the right environment? That's it. They clamped down on the money laundering. They started requiring ID verification for domestic cash transfers. Cross-border transfers are also subject to monitoring. So, seems like the stage is set. But why right now? I mean, these conditions have been going for a while. Keep in mind, today is Thursday. Now, just Tuesday, they suffered an immense DDoS attack on Tuesday. And not just the Ukrainian defense ministry, but several state-backed banks, Private Bank and Oshad Bank. They were down because of the attacks. When the defense ministry site went down, they said they'd be communicating through Twitter and Facebook. Quick quiz. You know what else you can do through Twitter? You can send someone Bitcoin and Ethereum. So if you know a Ukrainian on Twitter, you want to help out, see if they're up to receiving crypto. Anyway, back to the story. On Tuesday, they tweeted out, quote, "The MOU website was probably attacked by DDoS. An excessive number of requests per second were recorded. Technical works on restoration of regular functioning are being carried out." Along with that, Ukrainian residents reported issues with some of the ATMs and banking services at the State Savings Bank, Privat Bank, and Oshad Bank. NetBlocks is an organization that tracks internet outages around the world. They confirmed the loss of service, quote, "in a manner consistent with a denial of service attack." They said, quote, "Metrics indicate impact beginning from early Tuesday, intensifying in severity over the course of the day. Work is ongoing to assess the incident, which is ongoing at the time of writing." So this is happening, keep in mind, as Russia announced a partial troop withdrawal from the area near Ukraine's border. And a lot of this that's just beyond the scope of this episode, maybe another time. But at present, the crypto connection is this. Did Russia force the Ukraine into adopting cryptocurrency? Were they the sponsors of that DDoS attack? Did that DDoS attack, was that substantially responsible for Now this cryptocurrency bill finally gets through. 2 days difference. If they did so, why would they push Russia in, or why would they push the Ukraine into that? Did they also end up forcing themselves into adopting crypto? Or maybe they didn't exactly force themselves into it, but they talked themselves into it, seeing how far they were behind, because now the Ukraine has a funding source that they can't stop. Maybe that's behind what's pushing Russia's adoption of crypto, because then it becomes a funding source that they can't stop. It would be interesting to find out that that is the case. And that's going to do it for us tonight. What do you think? Did we get it right? Reach out and let us know. Send us an email at crypto.overnighter@gmail.com. That's crypto.overnighter@gmail.com. You can also find us on Torm and Twitter. Links to those platforms will be in the show notes. And please, if you could, like, subscribe, share, comment, and review the podcast. Also, if you're listening on Spotify, they do have a feature where you can rate podcasts right from the app. So please give us a 5-star rating. It would really help Tex and I out. It would also help others find this content. So getting the word out there helps them and us. And with that, may all your investments go up and to the right.